Good evening and welcome back to the channel. It's myself, JP, and joining me on this fine Friday evening is my good man and a very strange face to most, but not to me. I do have missed his big face, and it's good to have him back on. It's Mr. Barry McCandless. Good evening, mate, and I hope you're well.
Thank you, JP. What a brilliant introduction. Yeah, it's good to be on, mate. You know yourself, we chat most days. I missed the podcast. I missed coming on and getting to chat about the best thing that we can all spend our time chatting about, and that's Celtic. So good to be here, JP, and thanks for inviting me on, mate.
Not a problem, mate. I just thought it would have been a very good opportunity to get you back on for a wee chat on things that have been happening with Celtic, and obviously, you know, we're after an international break, and this hype that's taking on tomorrow, which is the people are calling this a top of the table clash. But I just want to get your thoughts on it, big fella.
Somebody's O has got to go. That's what they say, isn't it?
100%.
When two worlds collide and all that. So, listen, it's exciting. That is exciting. And it's a meaningful game, albeit, we're only, 7 games in. That's the 8th game. But Aberdeen are playing well. They're confident. They're undefeated. And, we've walked this walk enough that you don't want to give anybody an inch, when you're first place. So it's a big game. We're at home. We've had the international break. We're in great form, despite that one obvious result and performance over in Dortmund. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a full house. The excitement, the anticipation, and the game itself should be fun. It should be a fun game, But obviously, we're expecting Celtic to, whatever way they get the job done, we're expecting to win the game. But it's a mouth-watering tie, I've got to say.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously they're unbeaten. They've actually probably won the most games out of any team that's unbeaten. You look through the League Cup fixtures as well, and they remain undefeated on that. Now, I know people are probably going to look at this and say, JP, well, they've came close a couple of times. You look at the Dundee game, there was moments in the Hearts game where Hearts were unlucky with chances that they had. But you've got to, it's so cliche, isn't it? You've got to beat what's in front of you. And it is something Aberdeen have been managing to do. Now, what I would say is they're certainly, the fixture list for them is becoming juicier by the weeks as we go, because you look at tomorrow, they come to Glasgow to play the champions. They've then got Dundee United. And then the mob across the water have got to take a trip up to Pittodrie. So, essentially, you're looking at that and you're saying, right, this is a chance to really, really throw a massive cat amongst the pigeons, mate.
Well, if you're looking at it, if we step aside for a wee moment and look at it from an Aberdeen perspective, they're going to be hyped. And this is a huge opportunity for them. If they were to come to Celtic Park, and even if they were to leave, with a draw, with their undefeated run intact, I think that would be a celebration for them, because how often over the years have we as fans watched another team in Scotland out with ourselves and Rangers go on a winning run? You don't really see it happening, JP. When would a team in Scotland out with us and them win 7 games in a row? It's rare. So they will be determined to hold on to that. And I'm sure they're going to come and play their own game, because it's been effective. And I have heard that idea being put out about their fixtures being favourable. I never buy that. I never ever buy into that, because, seeing football, and particularly when you're not, Aberdeen are not at the top of the table most seasons, and they certainly on long winning runs. So it doesn't matter who they've beat to get to this point. You've got to say they're on a good run. They're playing good football. They've had a few games in amongst that 7 games where they've rode their luck a wee bit, but they've come away with a point. So they're going to come with their tails up, and they're going to, I think they're going to be pretty dogged as well. And and they're going to be resilient, and they're going to make us work for this, JP. That's for sure. But looking at it from a Celtic point of view, these are the games that you embrace. These are the games you want to have. So should be a good game.
This is why I love having you on, mate. I don't even need to ask you, because my next port of call there was to go into how do we think Aberdeen's going to set up. You know, there's this narrative that's been spun at the moment that people think that they're going to have a go at Celtic. And my reply to a couple of guys recently, if they do have a go at Celtic, then in my opinion, you are looking at a Borussia Dortmund versus Celtic result, and that they're going home with their tail between their legs, mate.
Yeah, I can see you. I can understand where you're coming from. I mean, to counter that, if Aberdeen come to Celtic Park and they're on the front foot, it's all ifs and buts, right? But as a manager, I'm sure Jimmy Phelan will be thinking this way. If they were to score the first goal at Celtic Park, they're already confident. You put that doubt in the fans.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an argument for saying they may come and play that way and go on the front foot. The smart sense would say they'll come to Celtic Park, they'll be reserved, they'll feel their way into the game. That's what they'll try and do. Stay in the game, and they may try and express themselves a bit more in the second half as the game goes on, depending on, you know, territory, possession, opportunities created. He seems like a sensible guy, this Phelan. He's not put Aberdeen on a winning run just by having one way.
Yeah.
To me, and what I've seen in them, they have adapted in games. They have sat back a wee bit when they've had a lead. They obviously, you know, have tried to attack and press teams. So we'll just need to wait and see, JP, on the day. But probably the smart money is Aberdeen coming. They're quite cautious. They're quite reserved, and go into the game that way.
Yeah, obviously I'll give my point there. I'm going to come, as we always do, you guys, the viewers, good evening all. I hope everybody's well. And Jem first for the comments, said, evening JP, Barry and the chat. Great interview with Peter Martin, guys. And you're right, JP, you will need to get a part 2 for more of his stories. Yeah, and I totally loved chatting with Peter. It was an easy chat. I felt as if I'd known him for years, and he made it so comfortable for us to do so. And we have had it on great authority that there will be a part 2. Just don't know when, because obviously we're busy, and so is Peter himself. But I'm sure we'll get something organised pretty soon enough. I hope you're well as well. Ryan, in the comments, he says, good evening all. Good to see Barry back on. 3 points tomorrow. Ryan, you'll need to pay him this time, mate. It was too dear for me the last time when we got Barry on, so you'll need to chuck him some money that you've got for your piggy bank as well, mate. And square him up. I promised him that. That's the only reason he's here tonight, because he's on a promise. Big Jason, how you doing, sir? I hope you're well, pal. He says, evening, guys. Massive game tomorrow. 3 points at all costs. We've got John Shirley in the comments tonight. He says, hi, JP and Barry. Hail, hail. I've seen this commenter so many times, and he's quite, you know, straight to the point when he comes on. He never really, man, a very few words, but you know, 573V13. Hail, hail, lads, and a massive hail, hail to yourself too. Joseph Agnew as well. He said, hail, hail, JP, Baz, good to see you. Where have you been? You've been sorely missed. It's just his money went up, Joseph. We just can't afford him anymore, mate. It's just his rate went up, and we weren't earning enough, so something had to go. Hope you're well though, pal. Chris in as well. Yes, evening, boys. And I hope everybody's well. Leanne Campbell's wee comment there said the last time that Rodgers came up against a 4-2-3-1, we got humiliated 7-1. Yeah, but the massive difference there for me, Barry, would be we are not playing a Borussia Dortmund. We're only playing Aberdeen, so let's calm the beans in that manner. However, in my opinion, if Aberdeen come and sit behind the ball, I'll get your thoughts on this in a second, Buzz. The way I'm thinking of this is it that way? They come along and they say, let's not get a battering. We sit behind the ball and see what can happen, because you know, there is a flip side of that when you could look at the Falkirk game and say Falkirk really troubled Celtic for at least 70 minutes in that game. But as Peter says to us yesterday, they don't hand out 70-minute cups, I'm afraid. So therefore, Celtic have always got that secret weapon, mate, which would be 5 subs coming off that bench and making a difference between a difference of a game still being 0-0 to possibly being 1-0 or 2-0. And then Aberdeen could look at that and say, you know, we got out of that and we got away with one here. 2-0's not a battering, Barry. And therefore, we get away from that. We're still in with a fighting chance of being near the top end of the table with a favourable tie, looking at the next couple of fixtures, with the other mob coming to Pittodrie as well, and giving yourselves a chance of keeping yourself a distance between you and them as well.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks everybody for tuning in. Probably should have said that at the start, eh? And it's always good to see that we're no on here, just me and you, JP. Although I'm sure we could do that anyway. I'm happy to do it, but it always helps to have some viewers. And just to pick up on Leanne, I'd watched one of the previous pods. I think it was the Dortmund game, and Leanne had made some excellent points on it, I have to say. So it's great to see we're getting people in the chat with some know-how and a wee bit of football awareness. So all good. And on your point about the mindset that Aberdeen might come with, I don't think they're going to come worrying about taking a heavy defeat, JP. I honestly don't. I think they're going to come ambitious. And I think they should come ambitious. You know, they're on a good win themselves, and there's a feel-good factor about their club. They've got that crucial thing in football, momentum. I would say my feeling on it is that, see the approach that we all want to take in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we go to Atalanta midweek, we want to go there and we want to have an attacking threat, don't we? But we want to be clever about it. We don't want to leave ourselves wide open.
Yeah.
I would guess that Aberdeen will probably come to Celtic with that approach. They'll respect who they're playing against, and they should, because we're a right good side. But I think they'll have one eye on how they can threaten us. So that's what I see happening. I see Aberdeen coming. I think they will be quite sensible early on. They'll plug gaps. They'll stay safe. And I think their intention will be to grow into the game. And probably their first remit will be get to half-time with a clean sheet. You're halfway there. And then as the second half goes on, I would expect, this is all going well from their point of view, by the way. I'm not like to do their tactics on, but
this is the thing. We've got to look at it from a balanced point of view as well. There's no point in just being one-sided and one track by all this at all.
No, we need to try and anticipate what Aberdeen will do. So that would be my feeling. First half, their hope would be clean sheet. If they score, even better. But they would want to get that clean sheet, get to half-time, regroup, see what they're doing well, see what they can improve on, and probably go for it in the last 20, 25 minutes. That's the exact approach I would like us to take, especially away from home in Europe. Then they've got the problem, though, what Celtic show up, because domestically we've been imperious. We've been absolutely fantastic, and we're at home. It's going to be a vibrant crowd, and that's going to push them on. And I just think no matter what approach Aberdeen bring, I think we'll be too strong anyway. That's if they sit in, I think we're too clever, we're too creative. We'll find the gaps, and if they come on the front foot, I'm the same as you. I think that would be a real mistake if they come and they press really high, they try and nick the ball off us at the back. I think pay a price for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially at Celtic Park, Barry, because we all know Celtic are really dominant in most of the games that they play at Celtic Park, if not all of them, domestically. I mean, the odd occasion we don't turn up very well, and, you know, we can have those moments of madness where you look at the Ross County, things were pretty flat in the first half, but for me, as I spoke to the lads, Ryan and Alan, who are on pretty much all the time with me, you know, I've said to them that it's a kind of... It's a game of two halves there, because in the second half we were much better, and then the subs came on, and essentially that's what changes the game to swing it in your favour. Now, that's what I was saying there and touching on just before you came in with your point. Celtic have got 5 subs to make that Aberdeen don't. So right away, you're looking at the quality level. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago, mate, we had like Engels and Ida on the bench. Now, you're paid £9.5 million for Adam Ida and 11 million for Engels, and this was a derby. And then you've got guys like Luke McCown, who for me showed really, really good form. The lad Alex Valle, who obviously we're going to touch on because he's now going to have to play due to Greg Taylor still being injured and Brendan confirming earlier that he is indeed out for the Atalanta game as well. So, but I mean, I'm not buying into this. Aberdeen won't change their approach. They will be forced to. It's plain and simple. Teams can come with the idea all they want. But in my opinion, there is an element of, like you says, being clever. If you're not, then you're asking for trouble, and a huge defeat to a team who has been winning. Look how we all felt as a support with that defeat to Dortmund. A lot of the Celtic fans were empty after that game, and it was humiliating and very, very detrimental to the club and damaging to the club. If Aberdeen came down to Celtic Park and get turned over with 5 or 6 tomorrow, players are going to look at each other and say, wow. Now, I've always said it, mate, there is levels to the game. And I'm afraid this Celtic side, for me, we're looking at a one-horse race now. If you lay all your cards on the table and you're really honest. And I feel that this Celtic side are just far superior to anything. And that's no disrespect to anything or any team that's in Scottish football. That's just the fact of Celtic are just too good because of the firepower and the manpower that they have at their disposal.
I agree. When it comes to quality, we've more than got the edge in every position. I don't think there's a player in Aberdeen's squad who would get into Celtic's. And that's just me being candid about it. But it's not only quality that wins you football matches. If that was the case, there would never be upsets in football. And there's always upsets in football. Every weekend there's upsets. So if Aberdeen, come and they've got a game plan and they've identified areas that they can hurt Celtic, and they're resilient and they're confident and they work as a team, and things go their way, they get the wee breaks. Look, there's no way this is a foregone conclusion tomorrow. Not by any means. Celtic, I always say it when we're getting into big games domestically, I always say, I have done in recent years anyway, so long as Celtic match the opposition's work rate, so long as they do the dirty side of the game well, so long as nobody takes a day off, then your football should come through. And you make a great point, JP, with the 5 subs now, and with the quality Celtic have added, that should have, most weeks that should be enough, to get the job done. Because if you get to the 60, 70-minute mark and you're maybe you're a goal up or it's level, you would trust those players to come on, because it's not just the way they're bringing on, JP. I think what you've got at Celtic this season, and it hasn't been like this for a wee while, it's the competitive atmosphere around the club and around the playing. There's a real hunger there for players to get in the team. And I know it's something we're going to touch on later on in the pod in regards to what is Brendan's best midfield 3, but what that really shows is there's competition there. And if you've got substitutes coming off the bench, let's go back to last season, you've got Mikey Johnson coming off the bench, maybe Yang. These guys don't really believe that they're going to do enough to stay in the team. I don't think they really believe there was a spot there for them. Whereas the squad this season, the players that are coming off the bench, I think they're coming on with the intention, I want in this team, and there's a chance for me to get in. So it's the quality, but also the hunger. And I would say that applies just to the Celtic first team as well. Everybody needs to be on it, and they need to be on it in terms of work rate, and they need to be on it in terms of what they're providing on the pitch, because it's a cutthroat business. When you've got a squad of that quality, you're able to say, well, bottom line is you're not performing, so somebody's going to take your spot. And that's the way I like my Fitbit team. I like my Fitbit team to have that competition through the whole squad, but not just for competition's sake. It needs to be tangible. You look at Valle, there is a battle there between those two. You get into midfield, you look at the options we've got there. Real Hatate's no a shoe in to play every week. And on it goes. So I think our quality should prevail, but things can go against you, JP. It's never just as straight and easy as that. But all things considered, of course, we get into the game heavy favourites.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to touch on some of the points that obviously are in the team. I've got a couple of wee bits of audio for Brendan's presser. I'm going to let, if there's anybody that's not heard any, you'll hear it tonight now, or this wee clip. Not just now, but I'm going to play them during this podcast. You know, I want to touch on the Greg Taylor thing because, you know, there's a comment for Big Rab, and he says there that Taylor is a massive miss. 2 games missed or as a sub, and the team was flat and very poor. Taylor is a leader, and he's missing at the back without CCV. That's massive. There is also the other side of the scale, who you obviously complimented at the beginning, and Leanne obviously is back in maybe comment regarding Taylor, and she reckons that Taylor's one of our worst left backs in our history. Frightening that folk actually rate this Kelly level dud. I have to say I completely disagree on that point. I really, really do.
Yeah.
He's certainly not the worst left back we've had. I remember Mo Kamara, and Taylor is light years ahead of him. You can look at Badr El Kadouri. There's other guys in that, you know, that bracket that I've saw in the last 30 years who I feel couldn't lace Greg Taylor's boots. But I do. I'm one of the ones that do like Greg Taylor. And I feel the team is weakened in a sense because he's now not there. And okay, yeah, we've got Alex Valle who has showed up well in the games that he's played. However, you know, he's then he's left that wee bit of a gap because now we don't have any cover because we've got young Matthew Anderson who's back over to Wacker in Austria. Bernaby's out to January, but as it appears now, the Brazilians want to keep him. So we're in a predicament, mate, where if something happens to Alex Valle now, I know he got brought off in the friendly game against Sligo Rovers just at half time. I think obviously that must have been Taylor's injury in mind as well, because I think Brendan must be thinking along the lines, Barry, if anything happens to Alex Valle, we're going to be needing John Higgins shortly because we'll be needing Snookers, mate.
Well, to Leanne's point, as I said, there was one I watched a previous pod and she made a lot of good comments, and football is all about opinions. I have to strongly, wholeheartedly disagree with her opinion on Greg Taylor. I think the guy's, I really don't think he gets the praise that he deserves. And the 2 games that were highlighted there, the Falkirk game and the Ross County game, I thought we missed Greg Taylor. And there's 2 arguments for Taylor. 1, domestic Taylor, and 2, European Taylor. European Taylor, I'm not a big fan. I do not like Greg Taylor in Europe. I don't think his game works well for transition football. I think that's where all his weaknesses are, and in Europe they all get highlighted. But all his strengths are a real asset to us domestically because we have the ball so much, and the fact that he inverts really well. He's a natural with it, and he comes into those pockets of space and he gives you an extra man. He has a nice range of passing. He keeps the ball moving really well. He allows Cam, as Brendan was saying, track the ball. And his distribution's good, and his work rate's excellent. So, and as I think it was Rab that mentioned there about his leadership. You know, he has those qualities too. So, to me, Greg Taylor domestically is a miss. But I agree. I think Valle's come in and he's looked good. He's looked sharp. He's different to Taylor. I think he's much better one-on-one as a defender. And even in the short time he had over in Germany against Dortmund, I thought you could see that. You could see that he's just more comfortable one-on-one. He's got the to kind of compete with tricky wide players. But I think in Brendan's press the other day, he was saying he'll be training after ATALANTA. So I think Taylor's not too far away from being fit. But in terms of been the worst left back at the club for 30 years. I think that's too harsh.
Yeah, I mean, like you says, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, which is fine. But again, on things like this, it would be a really, really strange and bizarre world, I think, if we all agreed with each other and, we were all sitting like the Churchill dog and we were just nodding our head and saying yes, 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 and that, because everybody's got their own way of thinking. And John Shirley's in the comments tonight, and for some reason, he thinks that, I'm running scared of tomorrow's game, because his comment the other night when we were on Monday, he said that Jimmy Teelan is a better tactician than Brendan. So again, you've got other points of view and other, other people saying, people can say what they want, and that's fine. But we need to chat on, the topics that we're putting out, and obviously how we feel also. You put comments in, guys. We have a right not to agree with you if we don't feel the right to. So, with the Greg Taylor one, it's a complete no from me. He's not the worst left back we've ever had. Greg Taylor's right foot is better than Mo Kamara's, and probably Badr El Kaduri and Edson Braithwaite at the time as well, because we get absolutely nothing out of those three. So,
all of them put.
What's that?
Probably better than all of them put together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's right. His right foot's probably better than them. I don't think any of the three could light a candle to Greg Taylor, in my opinion. So, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Alex Valle, to be fair with you, Barry, because, like you've said there, mate, he does show up well. And I like him in the one-on-ones. You look at the difference between both of them. In Europe, like you say, the Greg Taylor domestically to the Greg Taylor in Europe. The Greg Taylor in Europe, there was 4 diags was played in the first half. Adeyemi got on the end of every one of them. Duranville came on in the second half for Adeyemi's injury, which looked a bad one. A quality player, unbelievable. But again, I think he's going to face a long spell on the sidelines. Duranville came on, and the same thing was tried in the second half, and Alex Valle caught every one of them out. So, plus the 1-on-1 duels 4 or 5 times, he nipped the ball away for Duranville and went away with it. So, yeah, as I said, mate, it's one of those. It's, everybody's got an opinion on it, but I'm looking forward to seeing Alex Valle again, because I really think the kid coming from Barcelona, he's played at a far superior level to any of us, and he's mixed it with guys like, De Jong, guys like Pedri, guys like Gavi, guys like Rafinha. He's probably had to challenge Rafinha a few times in a 1-on-1 against each other in training. So, yeah, as I say, mate, he's that aspect of it, he's probably played at a higher level than Greg Taylor, But to say that, Greg Taylor's the worst defender or the worst left back we've had, you don't play the amount of games under so many different managers. I think it's like 3 different managers Greg Taylor's played under and had game time under them all. You don't do that, mate, if you're, absolutely rotten. So, that's that aspect that I can't agree with that, mate. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, and just before I comment on Valle, can I just go back to the comment that was made in regards to the Aberdeen manager being a better tactician than Brendan?
Yeah.
If you remember back to Brendan's first spell in charge, and we're at Ibrox, and it's 2-2, and we're down to 10 men, and Brendan goes with the 4-3-2 system. He leaves 2 forwards up front, and Odds and Edwards goes on to get the winning goal in that game. That's a pretty shrewd tactical move, and it's bold. That's high risk tactics, because you're at Ibrox, you're better rivals, a lot on the line, none more so than bragging rights at that time. And to pull something out of the bag like that, I'd never saw that before, JP. I'd never saw, a team's go down to 10 men, put 4 at the back, 4 midfield, 1 up front, or go with 5 at the back, 3 in midfield, 1 up front, or versions of that. You don't go for the throat and put somebody up top. So Brendan is as good a tactician as the next person, and he's proven that in his spells at Celtic and his time in the English Premier League. And you hear comments like that, and not to knock the people that are saying it, because as you say, people are entitled to their views, but I'm just quick to defend our manager, because I think sometimes he doesn't really get the credit that he deserves, quite frankly. And I know we've had that result over in Dortmund, but put that aside, Celtic's football for pre-season up until now and the results has been really excellent and enjoyable to watch. But on the point about Valle, I think he seems a more confident defender. He seems like somebody who's got a lot of trust in himself as a defender. And that's always been my issue with Greg Taylor. I really don't think he's got that confidence going back the way. I think if you play the ball over the top of him, or he's caught in counter-attacks, I think he really struggles. And I would say the primary reason is just his lack of pace. It just doesn't have that edge when it comes to pace. And you need it as a fullback these days, because they stay wide, they stay high. It's not like, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you had a right midfielder and a left midfielder, and they were a wee bit further back. These wingers are right up top. They're like strikers, especially in Europe, and especially if they think there's half a chance that you're no great going back away, you're no great in transition. So it's a shame that his game really breaks down in Europe. But as I said, domestically, he's been brilliant for us. But I think Valle is better in those positions. He's better if the team win the ball and they're able to counter attack. He's just quicker. He's able to make the ground up better. He's more athletic in that sense. And I've liked what I saw him, even though I think the few games that he started in still been our best performances. But I think that was more down to the team rather than him. So what I would say is, JP, I haven't saw anything in him that's concerning. I haven't seen anything to say, he might not be able to play. He certainly has looked good enough.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Obviously, moving on to our next point, Cameron Carter-Vickers, obviously he's returned to training. There has been ongoing comments still. Leanne and a couple of other commenters are still chatting about Greg Taylor. And Big Rab reckons that Taylor played his best football under Neil Lennon in Europe, because Lennon's kind of defence was like a kind of more flatter back four. Leanne's not happy with Greg Taylor being inverted too much and coming in the field. I actually think, to be fair with you, Leanne, just last point on this, I think that's what Greg Taylor's more efficient at. Coming in the field, he's so good technically. I think he's very good with the ball, and I enjoy watching him coming in the field, especially in the big hands, because big hands get more of a tune out of him. See that kind of through pass? We've seen it many times. He keeps finding with the eye of the needle through to Maeda. That's lovely to watch. See when that comes off, and even the ones over the top when he floats. You look at the cross he put in for Ida's header, the game at Fir Park. He gets back into the game to start that kind of push. For me, that was awesome, and I like Taylor when he goes drifting. That's what I feel we get the best out of him. But I understand what you're saying, pal, in terms of he's actually defending. I think that's more to the point in Europe as well. He kind of gets caught too high or caught ball watching and he's not there, whereas Valle seems to be a bit more switched on. I think Brendan touched on it as well, Barry, in terms of confidence. Valle just knows he can get in and do it. That's the thing. He just knows he can get in and handle it because he's played for Barcelona. And if you've done that there, anything at Celtic, mate, surely a walk in the park to you against other teams. But touching on Cameron Carter-Vickers, he has returned to training. Brendan never gave too much away, mate. He did say he's trained well, and he's waiting to see if there's any after effects of today's session before he makes his mind up really on whether he's going to play. Now, this is just for me in terms of going into this week that we have fixtures-wise, because again, midweek we've got a very important fixture again. I feel, Barry, that Cameron Carter-Vickers needs to play some sort of part tomorrow in order to get minutes back in his legs to play any part of Wednesday, mate.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to every game at Celtic's important. Every game at Celtic manager's important.
100%, yeah.
But with the fixture lists that we get, Brendan does need to use common sense with how he players and when he selects players, especially if they've got knocks and injuries. And my feeling is that Brendan will look at it, which of the two games is more of a priority for him? Which of those two games, does he prioritise CCV for?
What would you think? What, off the top of your head, what would you say that answer was just now? Just to give the viewers an idea of where you think that's at.
I think Trusty will start. I think Trusty will start the game, and I would imagine in a perfect world, the game around 60, 65 minutes is well in Celtic's favour, and he brings Cameron Carter-Vickers on for the rest of that, with a view to starting him on Wednesday.
Right.
That's what I think ideally would like to do. I think if he starts him against Aberdeen, there's any issues at all, there's no chance he can play on Wednesday. But the risk you take is if you don't start him and you go with Trusty, and this is a big game, and it doesn't go your way, you've got that regret. Damn, I should have started Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Yeah.
That's his. I've heard him enough this season talking about making decisions, and that's his job. His job is to make decisions. So he needs to weigh it up. But if I was in Brendan's shoes, I think that's probably what I would go. I think Celtic are good enough to go and beat Aberdeen at home with Trusty and the team. And ideally, you would want Cameron Carter-Vickers the last 20-25 minutes so that he's ready and primed to play on Wednesday, because we do need him for Wednesday night, mate.
Yeah, 100%. And I've always said this, mate, you cannot go into these kind of games with your best defender not being able to play. I think there's some stat, and I actually thought I had been tripping prior to reading this stat, and it's something bizarre. Like in the last 13 European games, he's missed 12 of them. That's phenomenal. I mean, that's, you talk about making it harder for yourself. I mean, we need to get to the bottom of what's going on, because over the last year and a bit, for me, his injuries, he's came back and then he keeps breaking down. So we need to get to, and it's the same reoccurring thing that's happening to him with this leg. So we need to get to the bottom of, first of all, what it is. The medical team need to look at that and say to themselves, right, maybe we're rushing this guy back too quickly, and maybe the time out he's just had was the recovery period he should have had a year ago. So it is it's imperative for me that he plays in this game on Wednesday to give us a fighting chance. He gives us a steadiness that we just don't have, and he also makes people better round about him. For me, Liam Scales is better when he's there. Alistair Johnson's a better player when he's there, and that's purely down to a familiarity with them, Baz, and communication. Because they've played together, so even Greg Taylor, they've played together that long together. They're all used to one another, so they all know each other's movements, patterns, everything that they do, passing movements. And I also think with Casper in now, that's also helping with the team massively, because you look at the first game of the season at Kilmarnock, there's a triangular motion of passes, then the ball's clipped into Hatate straight away from the goalkeeper. Now, no disrespect to Big Joe, but Joe Hart would have played that to either Scales or Cameron Carter-Vickers, and it would have get cycled back in and round again. Instead of that, the ball's played first time, dink, boom, and that's the kind of goalkeeper you've got now. So that eliminates the press. He done the exact same in the derby when we broke through and we scored the goal that eventually it was chopped off. But that's what Cameron Carter-Vickers brings you. It brings you. He brings you he also brings you a calmness. And not only that, mate, he's a leader and he gives the team loads of confidence. So, yeah, it's an absolute must that he plays on Wednesday for me, mate.
Yeah. But I think my awareness with his injury is that it's his toe. So it's not related to injuries that he's had over the past few seasons.
Oh, is it not? I thought, right, my mistake then, because I thought it was this calf muscle that seems to be gave him problems before.
No, it's something to do with his toe. And in Cameron Carter-Vickers' defence, the guy has played through, the pain barrier in the past
Yeah,
for
no, he
us.
has.
And I think he's even been doing that this season. And I think Brendan had to say to him, or they had to come to an agreement, look, we don't need to take you to the team for a while. So, you would have to say that it's he's not the type that's dodging games. He's absolutely vital to us, JP, and he's vital, full stop, but particularly in Europe, because we get killed in transitions in Europe.
Yeah.
2-3 passes and teams are bearing down on us, and their most creative player has got time and space to unlock their defence. If you've got Cameron Carter-Vickers in your team, he's a great way of preventing that, just because he's really quick for a centre back.
Yeah.
He's really good at transitions. He's really good in the duels. And you're right, it gives you confidence. I mean, at any level of football that you've played, and you've played football yourself, you always look about to see who's in the team. And if there's one or two in your head, it does drop a wee bit. You do. You begin to have a wee bit of doubts and stuff. So Cameron Carter-Vickers in the team does breed confidence.
Yes.
It definitely bring a security to our back line. And he's our best defender. Bar none, he's our best defender. So I trust Brendan to get the right. And if he starts against Aberdeen, listen, maybe it's a case of Brendan puts him in for the start against Aberdeen, and it's that sink or swim. If he pulls up, he has to come off. Fine. At least I know I've not got him for once. And if he plays the game and he gets through the game, ideal. He's available for Wednesday. So it just depends on what Brendan's kind of viewpoint on it is.
Yeah. Obviously, during the international break, we have had a new recruit. Well, I don't know if you could call him a new recruit to the club, because we all know now it's the worst kept secret in football history that he's been working with the club since the beginning of the summer. But Celtic have managed to recruit a new head of football operations. I think this is it must be a new role that's in there. They don't really want to call him a sporting director, and they don't want to call him a head of scouting. So they've now called it a head of football operations. But he's to do all that role. He's to head up that department. And obviously Brendan's now going to trust him to bring his own team and guys that he can trust and bring in to help him do the networking and everything that we're doing. And we understand that he's the man behind bringing in Austin Trusty and also helping Celtic to tie in the Arnie Engels deal as well. So obviously the man that I'm speaking about is former Exeter manager Paul Tilsdale. I'm going to play a wee clip, obviously, of Brendan speaking about him, and then we'll have a wee quick chat before we move on again. So I've got the clip here, and I will put it on now.
Well, Paul was in with us over the course of that period, and I think I mentioned before, I felt that from an operational and strategic perspective, we needed someone else to come in and support that side of things. So I'm absolutely delighted that he's in. Paul is a talented guy, and he joins talented people that we have here at the club, and that's what we want to strive to bring in, people that can help us make a difference, and people that are compatible with the philosophy here and how we work. So he's also had managerial experience, which I'm really pleased with as well, and that was also a factor. He understands football, he understands the game, he's managed for a long time also. So he knows from what it takes on the field, and he obviously knows that balance between and how you need to work with your boards. So I'm absolutely delighted he's here, and I'm sure that he'll make a really good impact for us.
Yeah, so as we can hear with Brendan, and it's no surprising, Barry, Brendan's a very confident man, and You happy with that appointment, mate? And do you think it's an appointment that we needed to make?
Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm delighted Paul Tisdale is at the club, and I think Brendan cleared it up in his press conference today that he was actually involved over the summer as well. So
yeah,
you call him Paul Tisdale, but you might want to call him the football doctor. I've heard that's his. I think he's this self-proclaimed football doctor. I don't know if that was a nickname or he stuck that one in there. But
well, certainly what we do know is he's a well sought after man, because I know Matt Burchell and the lads tried to take him into Liverpool over the summer as well, and he's obviously rejected that chance to come and work with Celtic and Brendan.
Yeah, and various things I've read about him, he's helped different Premier League clubs in terms of he's had an input into how they run things, certain areas, structurally. He's advised. So the key word in that press conference there for me, JP, was compatible. So Brendan said he's compatible with how this football club is.
Yeah.
And that to me is that this is somebody that Brendan Rodgers had gave the green light to. This is somebody that aligns well with how Brendan sees Celtic developing.
Yeah.
Which is crucial. That's everything, and it's everything in life, connections, but it's definitely everything in football. Because if you've got two people who don't quite see things from the same point of view, that causes conflict. And a lot of times it causes breakdowns. That's the last thing we need at our club. So what I'm happy about is the guy comes with a great CV. He's managed over a lengthy period of time. So again, Brendan referenced that he understands the manager's job. He's not just a businessman or somebody who's coming in with, speciality and data and analysis. He's actually been on the field and the dugout managing. He knows what it's like. So I think that's important as well. But it was crucial to get somebody in that role, because we need somebody who's in the background. Whilst Brendan is managing the football team, we need somebody in the back whose sole focus is on player recruitment and how to improve upon the team. And I was actually quite excited. I watched Brendan's full presser today, and he was asked the question, Paul being in the building now, and the fact that we now know he was there in the summer, has that gave you an edge in terms of recruitment in January? And Brendan's response was, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, that's the type of running of the football club that we all want. We all want a club that's looking ahead and looking at improving upon things, because a club of our size, you can never stop. You can never rest on your laurels. You have to always be looking at how you can improve things. And it seems as though it looks like we've got the right guy for that, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy as well, mate. And you just got to look into him a wee bit and do a wee bit of due diligence, and you know that you've got a good thing there. When like I said, when Matt Burchell and the boys have left Bournemouth to get into Liverpool now for this new way of doing things with Liverpool and bringing in Arne Slot to replace Jurgen Klopp. Look at the start they've had to the league campaign as well, and they hardly signed a player. I think they signed one player, and it was the lad Fertley. So, yeah, I'm more than happy. As far as I'm aware, like he says, he has a doctor, or he calls himself a doctor. And I think we've needed a doctor, because I think the last one we had was Dr. Joe Venglos, if I'm not mistaken.
He brought Lubo.
He brought Lubo and Big Me Albi, and your man Alan keeps bringing in Tony Warner. He played under him as well. So Big Tony played in the famous 5-1 victory against the old mob across the water. He was a keeper that day, and the only goal he lost that day was the Giovanni Van Bronckhorst free kick and off the post. But yeah, as I said, Burchell played in that game as well. So there you go, a wee connection there with Matt Burchell trying to get Paul Tisdale, a doctor that played under a doctor. So that's I don't know if there's a headline in there somewhere for that, is there?
Sure.
Surely got everyone. Surely got everyone. Get the comments and let us know what you think as well, guys. But no, listen, I'm happy as well. And like he says, it smoothed things over as well, because I think Brendan was I don't want to say under pressure, because the man carries himself really, really well. He probably was deep down, we just don't know. But, you know, we understand that he was doing more than one role over the summer, not just trying to manage a team. He was also trying to deal with off the field things like contracts and things for players and going and speak to people. And now he's got someone in that can do that for him, you know, and like be that kind of go between the Celtic hierarchy and, you know, and Brendan and his coaches as well. And hopefully he can bring in some staff members that he knows that can also boost it up and speed up that conveyor belt in the process. Another thing I want to bring up, mate, is Brendan also mentioned, now I know previously by looking today, he obviously felt the need to comment on this, because I think Celtic have now, looking over the last couple of days, Celtic have now been severely warned about the use of pyrotechnics at games. I'm going to play a wee clip just now of what Brendan had to say in that.
We don't need the pyrotechnics for great support. The support that we get home and away in games is absolutely incredible, and we can't let that type of behaviour dictate whether fans that can maybe be in with the position of not attending a game, you know, because that's not fair. It's not right. People that have followed Celtic home and away for years and years and years should never be getting banned. And like I said, it's not something that we need. We're not a club that needs that to ignite our support base. What we bring to a stadium in colour and noise is absolutely amazing. And I hope that this does end that, because as I said, it just wouldn't be right for any of our supporters to miss a game. We can't afford for that to happen. And if it does, then it's totally on a minority of our support. It's as simple as that. It's nothing to do with football. And if you do keep doing it, you're showing that you don't really care. You don't really care for the team, you don't care for the support, and you don't care for your club, because the club ultimately are getting fined as well. So if you keep doing it, you're clearly showing that you're actually not really worried about your own club. You know, you're worried about yourself.
Yeah, I think his message is quite clear in the way that he's gone about that and the way he said that there, mate. And pyrotechnics is a thing now, mate, that over the last, I would say, 10 years has become bigger and bigger and bigger at football matches. I mean, we've been at games, mate, me and yourself, and you see it happening, man. And first of all, man, the smell off the place after that happens and what it brings to your lungs and everything, it's probably not the healthiest option, that's for sure. After the game, I remember going out and sucking on one of the motors outside Celtic Park, the back of the exhaust, just trying to get a breath. The tears were running down my face. I was like, oh my goodness, man, what is going on? My head, there was a red mist descended down in my eyes. I couldn't see things. I thought my phone was like, hello, hello. It was ringing in my ear and everything. Honestly. But I think, obviously, Brendan's quite clear in what he says, and he's been very candid there about how he feels on it, mate.
Yeah, that was quite funny. I honestly was wondering, where is he going with this? So, that was.
I took you down the houses and brought you back, mate.
There's just no need for it. I mean, I think what Brendan was saying there was that our fan base don't need that. I mean, you know, the other day asked a good comment about the Asman. That was something that Brendan did speak about as well, about kids being in the stadium, being behind these kids. It's quite intimidating if you're a wee kid, you know, a young boy or a young girl, and this thing's going off in front of you, and you know yourself, like at a game, especially if the atmosphere is rowdy and it's a big game, and you're sort of, you're a wee bit bamboozled. I mean, in a good way, you know, watching your football team. But if something like that's going off, I can imagine it would be quite intimidating. So,
yeah,
and I just don't like them. I'm not a fan of them, and I think that Brendan's absolutely right. We don't need them. We've got a good enough support base. We bring the noise, we bring the passion, we bring the songs, we support our team. There's just no need for it. And I like that version of Brendan where he just says it as it is. Do you know what?
He became ruthless, hasn't he? This time around, he's like he became just. I'm not taking any of this, and I'm just going to say how I feel, and that's it.
Aye, and I think he's earned that, JP. Do you know what I mean? He's earned that because okay, I don't want to go over old ground. I know the circumstances he came back and blah blah blah, but you know, to complete a double last year and the start we've had to the season, and the fact that he's brought that feel good factor back amongst everybody, he's quite within his right. They just say it as and he's right. If you are going to continue to do this, cost the club money, get the club fined, you don't really care about the football team. You don't really care about your club. You're just being selfish. How else could you put it?
Yeah. No, 100%, mate. You're bang on. I just thought that was a very important part of his presser today because, again, it's not very often you see Brendan going into those spiels and going that way, but I've noticed a wee change in Brendan, especially the second time around he's became a manager again, and he seems to be a wee bit more ruthless. You know, all that chat last season with the Jane, what's her name? She used to do Scotland Today. I think it was the BBC, wasn't it? And she was kind of prodding him and trying to get a reaction for him, and he called her a good girl, and then there was a big hoodoo, you know, but a big hullabaloo about Brendan's done this and he said that and he's sexist and he's this and he's that, and he's just straight to the point, man. He's just he's not got the time for nonsense, and yeah, ultimately now. I really do feel that it's going to cost the club massively in terms of fans are going to start missing out on games if this pattern continues, mate. And it's a shame because there's a lot of Aberdeen Celtic fans out there that are a lot more fortunate than me and can travel into Europe and go to these magnificent stadiums and teams and go and see places that I've not got the luxury of doing so. And that privilege is going to be taken away just by a moment of madness and waving a pyrotechnic in the next, if they do it in the next game. I find it bizarre, mate. I really do. I find the whole thing very bizarre. But I just hope they can come to some sort of an arrangement and they can stop doing it, because if they do, then it's only going to be for the benefit of the club. And again, the club are heavily fined every time they do it, but it's going to get to a point, mate, where we're not going to get into away stadiums if our fans are going to go there and they're just going to, there's a deliberate act there to kind of break the rules. The rules are the rules, whether people agree with them or not. It's, that's what UEFA have set out, and if you cross that threshold one too many times, eventually they're going to say to you, do you know what, he's only listening, so he's just going to have to stay at home, I'm afraid, folks, and he won't be welcome back. I mean, it's happened in Turkey. So there has been places you could really look at examples for. So I just hope, mate, that they can wrap doing it, and then we can all breathe normally at football matches and enjoy the game. We're at that point now, mate, where I'm going to ask you for a team prediction. I know you want to mention the kind of before we finish up, we'll touch on it, the midfield formula and what suits us best. I'll let you go first in terms of your midfield trio and who you think's the biggest weapon that we have on there.
Well, I'm glad we're going to touch on this because I think it is the most important area of the pitch for Celtic. And to be fair, it has been for the past few seasons. Callum McGregor picks himself. He'll play in the number 6 role. In my view, Arnie Engels plays to the right of Callum McGregor. So it's that other position between Bernardo and Hatate. And I think there is a real talking point there. And Brendan has changed that enough for me to believe that position is up for grabs. You add McCown into the mix, who really has looked a breath of fresh air in a Celtic jersey. He's got that left foot, takes up good positions of the pitch. I like that he drifts out wide, and he obviously knows the way to go. So I think all being equal, everybody playing at the top game, I think you're probably looking at Engels, McGregor, Hatate. But Paulo Bernardo, his form's been really good. And I don't think I think Brendan's got an issue with Rio in terms of he loses the ball at times when he shouldn't.
Yeah.
I really think that infuriates Brendan Rodgers. I don't think he likes that at all.
Yeah.
The fact that is with Rio Hatate, I think he's probably our most creative midfielder. He can do things that a bit different. He's got that vision. So I would expect tomorrow that he'll go with Engels, McGregor, Hatate. And for me, that is the most important area. Not just the most important area of the pitch for us, but I think it's where we're best. I think that's where we're strongest, that midfield threes. What about yourself? What do you think? What would you go with?
Yeah, listen, I love Bernardo. I think, you know, my feelings personally on Paulo Bernardo. I think he's quality. I think he's got that wee bit of difference in there, and he's got a physicality as well. He brings with good legs. He can get up and down the pitch and do it over a period of time. I agree with you. I think Rio Hatate gets caught in possession, and he gives the ball away cheaply. Now, the argument to that is, on the flip side, is if he does it in Europe, Barry, you are punished more times than you're not. You look at the Dortmund game, right? I know in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing. You know, Hatate comes on as a second half substitute. Yeah, for me, I thought he affected the game because he came on and he tried to be positive. He put Nicholas Kuhn through in goal. A wee bit of poor finishing on at that moment for Nicholas. You know, you don't know. He had a couple of shots at goal himself, one of which the goalkeeper saved. The other one went over the bar. So, yeah, I thought Hatate was good when he came on, but the flip side of that coin is, and most of you folks that are watching just now, I've seen it many a times, we've been on this road before, Hatate starts that game, and then before you know it, he gives the ball away in the first couple of minutes. Before you know, Dortmund are through, and there's a gap big on the Grand Canyon between the midfield and the defence, and the game goes tits up right away for us. You know, coming off the bench, there's a difference between coming off the bench when the game's at 0-0 or when the game's 5-1 in the other team's favour, because when you're coming off the bench and the game's at 5, it's easier to play better when you're 5-1 down. When it goes 5-1, you've not really got, you know the game's done, so it's like you've not got a higher pressure on you, in my opinion, to come on and really have to do things for the start if it's still 0-0. Whereas if you're coming on as a sub and the game's 0-0, you know that you have to come on and try and affect this game as much as you can to try and get your team the most positive result possible. So, again, there's different ways of looking at that. But, yeah, for me, there is an argument for Rio Hatate to start the games. But I just feel, personally, that, and I don't know if everybody else that's watching is going to feel the same, I think Paulo Bernardo acts as a better protector for Callum McGregor than Rio Hatate does. I just think he's more physical. When you look at that and then you add Engels to that mix, Engels is a kind of floater, the one that goes from the 6 to the 8 to the 10, but he does it beautifully. And he's good at keeping the ball. What I love about Engels is he's got that high intelligence when he knows, I need to do this at speed, and then he knows, I need to take my foot off the gas here and just sit in and give the boys a breather. But Bernardo gives you that as well, because Bernardo's that type of player, but as you've probably played fives with millions of them, mate. You give him a ball, mate, and he'll just give you a rest. He'll go a wee run with the ball, and before you know it, he knows that you get your second wind again, and then he gives you the ball back. That's the way Bernardo plays the game. You know, Hatate looks for that beautiful pass, and more so than not, I'm afraid the ball doesn't reach its destination. It's intercepted, or it's nipped off him, or he can be caught dilly-dallying. There's a big thing about Hatate going away with Japan and not being picked. But for me, Baz, there's a reason why he's not being picked, and I think that is the reason. He gives the ball away too cheaply. And quite frankly, mate, there's guys like Mitoma, guys like Kamada. They're playing at a higher level than Rio Hatate is, in a far better league than Rio Hatate is. but they're also doing it and being effective when they're doing it, more so than Rio Hatate is. That's why he's not getting a game for Japan, in my opinion, mate.
Yeah, I just think he's a cracking player. He's a brilliant player, and he's technically really good and scores goals. He takes up brilliant positions of the pitch in terms of attacking. You know, it's hard to pin him down. It's that lack of focus, and it continuously shows up. He's not switched on the entire duration of the game. And I think the best point you made there was, in Europe, he makes that mistake and we're punished. Now you can get away with it more domestically. And obviously we've got the ball more and we're on the front foot more, so he's not as exposed. But it's a shame because I really do think if he was to fix that one shortcoming, now he's got a lot of other shortcomings, but that's the main one. The main one is that he has these moments where he just gives the ball away so unnecessarily. So I think there's an argument between him and Bernardo at the moment. I'd still go with Rio Hatate based on his performances in the past and just that goal threat. But it's just interesting now because Rio Hatate, prior to this season, I would say he's been he play every game for Celtic, but there's a lot of competition in that area of the pitch. But it's to our benefit because, as you said earlier in the pod, later on in the game, what great qualities you've got to bring off the bench, whoever doesn't start.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And I'm just going to bring you on to my last and final bit, mate, where I ask you for your team selection.
Scott Bain in goal.
You say that, by the way, Ryan's in the comments. He'll be sitting with the Domestos right now, down in it, man.
Schmeichel in goal. AJ, I think he'll go with Trusty and Scales. Valle left back. Engels, McGregor and Hatate midfield. Maeda, Kyogo and Kun. That's what I believe he'll start with.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably similar, but there's a couple of wee changes in there for me. I think he'll go with Schmeichel in goal. I think it'll be AJ. I actually think now this might be wild and people might clip this and come back to me and say this was mental, JP. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers will start, and if Celtic are on a positive run and they're 2 or 3 up by 60, 65 minutes, he will then be taken off for Austin Trusty, but I think Cameron Carter-Vickers will start the game. I think it'll be Liam Scales and Alex Valle. I think the midfield will be Callum McGregor and the Engels, and I think it's going to be Paulo Bernardo that starts the midfield. I seen a comment from Big Jason earlier. He reckoned that Luke McCown was maybe going to be starting. Now, Brendan, that is another flip side to that. Brendan could look at that with an aspect, with an eye on Wednesday. But I can't see that. I think after the international break, players will be fresh, they'll be ready to go again. And I just think it'll be Bernardo. I do. And I think it'll be Maeda, Kun and Kyogo. That brings us to the end of our wee chat, mate. It's been great having you back on again, mate. Cheers for taking the time. And you can do that if you want, man. I tend not to. Since you're on and since I've not seen you for a while, yes, let's do it. So you give me your score.
Special privileges here. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Celtic.
2-0, okay. I'm going to go 3-0. 3-0 to Celtic. And I'm going to say Kyogo hat trick. There you go.
Oh, you've went back. Oh,
I'll say Kyogo. Hopefully I'm not back out with exhaust pipes again trying to breathe. But no, listen, thanks again, mate, for coming on a Friday night and having a wee chat. For everybody that's been in the chat and your comments, I totally appreciate it. I really, really do. This is the start of a busy weekend for us. As you all know, folks, by now, we are doing a live event tomorrow evening, and it is with ex-Celtic winger Joe Miller. There is some limited tickets available, folks. If anybody who wants to come along, you can do. It is in the Morven Lounge in Glasgow. Starts at 7 p.m. Now, we did put out a video yesterday for you, and we told you that we want everybody in for about 7:30, 7:45. The reason for that is the doors will be closing at 8 o'clock, because that's when we will start the interview with Joe Miller. And we don't want a lot of noise and people walking in and out. So if possible, can you please make sure you're there? Like we've been on tonight and chatting for over the last hour and a bit. It is a match day for Celtic tomorrow. If you live in the East End of Glasgow or in the surrounding area of Parkhead, give yourself enough time to get yourself up. For those of you that maybe don't know anything about the live event, it is £10. So you can buy a ticket still. You can pay the money into our PayPal, which is this here, RyanClifford9@aol.co.uk. Alternatively, you can pop into the Morven tomorrow if you've got availability to do so and pick up your wristband from there. Everybody that's coming along, you need to make sure you've brought money, cash, because it's a cash-only bar. They do not have a card machine. Okay? There is a bank close by, round the corner where the shops are, but they don't have a card machine for you to use chip and pin or Apple Pay or any other alternative card payment. So please make sure you have money with you. Because if no, you're probably going to have to go and get money. But above all else, thanks to Barry for joining me tonight, mate. It's been a great chat. And we've enjoyed having you back on. Hopefully it's not as long the next time till we see you. If you are new to the content, you like what you've seen tonight, please like and subscribe. It's totally free, and become a member of the Unrestricted View family. What I will say also, folks, we've done an interview this week with Peter Martin, PLZ soccer host and football pundit. It is in the video section of the YouTube channel. If you want to jump on there, jump on and give that a wee switch. But above all else, take care, have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you not too long from now, tomorrow evening. But hail, have fun, folks. Taddy bye.
Cheers.
The Celtic Unrestricted View is sponsored by AB Entertainment. It's a DJ and entertainment business. And we are also partnered by MCM Framing Services and Hoops Memorabilia. Both our sponsor and our partner are on social media and can be found on Facebook or Instagram. So feel free, guys, to check them out as they offer fantastic services, and enjoy the upcoming episode. Hail.